The day my daughter-in-law decided to ship me off to a nursing home started like any other. Sunlight streaming through the kitchen window, the smell of coffee brewing, and the faint sound of the morning news murmuring from the living room TV. I was buttering my toast when Jessica walked in, her heels clicking against the hardwood like little warning shots. "Ruth, we need to talk." That tone. I'd heard it before. When she convinced my son Daniel to sell my late husband's vintage Cadillac. When she rearranged my living room furniture without asking. When she started referring to my home as the family house. Like I was just a placeholder. She sat across from me, her manicured fingers tapping the table. "It's not safe for you here alone anymore. What if you fall? What if..." "I've lived here 40 years, Jessica. I think I know how to walk down my own hallway." But she wasn't listening. She never did. Instead, she slid a glossy brochure across the table. Golden Years Living, in swooping cursive letters. A picture of smiling seniors playing bingo. "They have round-the-clock care," she said, like she was offering me a vacation. My chest tightened. "This isn't your decision." Daniel agrees. And that was the knife. My own son. The boy I'd raised. The man I'd helped through medical school. The one who used to fall asleep on my lap during thunderstorms. He'd signed off on this. I stood, my knees protesting, but I refused to let her see me wobble. "I'll think about it." But we both knew what that meant. That night I didn't sleep. I sat at my husband's old desk, fingers tracing the grooves in the wood where he'd once scribbled bills and letters. And then I opened Jessica's drawer. Bank statements, legal forms, a highlighted section. Transfer of assets in case of or incapacitation. My hands shook. This wasn't about safety. This was a takeover. The papers in Jessica's desk drawer didn't just sting. They burned. My fingers left smudges on the crisp legal documents as I flipped through them, my pulse hammering in my ears. Words like power of attorney and irrevocable trust jumped out at me. But the real gut punch was seeing Daniel's signature right beside hers. I should have known. The signs had been there for years, ever since Jessica came into our lives. At first, she was all charm, bringing me flowers, insisting on Sunday dinners, laughing a little too loudly at my jokes. But after the wedding, the mask started slipping. She redecorated the guest room, my sewing room, into a home office for Daniel. She accidentally donated my favorite set of china to Goodwill. And then came the comments, slipped into conversations like poison. "Ruth, don't you think stairs are getting hard for you? This big house must be so much work at your age. Mom, Jessica's just worried about you." My son's voice defending her every time. I spent the rest of the night making copies of every document on my ancient printer, the machine whirring and groaning like it understood the betrayal. When the sun came up, I dressed in my best church clothes, the navy suit I'd worn to my husband's funeral, and dialed a number I hadn't used in years, Harris and Klein Law Offices. "Martin Harris, please. Tell him Ruth Calloway is calling." Pause. Then a deep, familiar voice. "Ruth? My God, it's been what? 10 years? 12, I said, my throat tight. "I need your help, Marty. They're trying to bury me alive." The silence on his end told me everything. He remembered. He remembered the will we'd drafted after my husband's heart attack. The safeguards we'd put in place. The promises. "I'll be there by noon," he said. "Don't sign anything. Don't even nod at them." I hung up and stared at my reflection in the hallway mirror. The woman looking back at me had wrinkles deeper than yesterday, but her eyes... My God, her eyes were on fire. Jessica's key turned in the front door. "Showtime!" The front door swung open, and Jessica breezed in, her designer purse swinging like a weapon. She froze when she saw me standing there in my navy suit, my posture straighter than it had been in years. "Ruth, why are you dressed like—" Her eyes darted to the hallway closet where my coat was clearly visible. "Going somewhere?" As a matter of fact, yes. I kept my voice steady, savoring the flicker of confusion on her face. "An old friend is coming by. A lawyer." Her perfectly plucked eyebrows shot up. "A lawyer? What on earth for?" I could see the gears turning behind her Botox-smooth forehead. Was I changing my will? Contesting the nursing home? Her manicured fingers tightened around her car keys. "Just some paperwork," I said lightly, moving past her toward the kitchen. "You remember Martin Harris, don't you? Handled my husband's estate." The name landed like a bomb. Jessica's face went pale under her carefully applied blush. She knew exactly who Marty was. The man who'd made sure my husband's ironclad will left everything to me, with clear instructions about what would happen if I were ever unable to manage my affairs. I didn't realize you were still in touch," she stammered, following me. "Oh, Marty and I go way back." I poured myself a glass of water, my hands miraculously steady. He always said to call if anyone ever tried to take advantage of me. Jessica's phone buzzed. "Daniel, probably." She ignored it. "Ruth, if this is about the assisted living discussion, we only want what's best for..." "What's best for who, exactly?" I turned to face her fully. "Because I found some very interesting documents in your desk last night." Her breath hitched. For the first time since she'd married my son, Jessica looked genuinely scared. The doorbell rang. "That'll be Marty," I said, smiling for the first time in months. "Shall we let him in?" Jessica moved first, her heels clicking rapidly toward the door, as if she could intercept Marty before I did. But I got there first, my hand wrapping around the cool brass knob with a steadiness that surprised even me. The man standing on my porch looked older, more gray at the temples, deeper lines around his eyes. But that warm bulldog expression was exactly the same. Marty Harris still carried himself like the linebacker he'd been in college, his broad shoulders filling out his rumpled suit jacket. "Ruth." His voice was a low rumble, the kind that used to calm juries and terrify opposing attorneys. His sharp gaze flicked past me to Jessica, who was hovering like a nervous hummingbird. "Mrs. Calloway?" Jessica forced a smile. "Mr. Harris, what a surprise. I didn't realize you and my mother-in-law were so... close." Marty stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, his leather briefcase brushing against the doorframe. "Oh, Ruth and I go back further than your husband's diapers." He winked at me. And just like that, I was 25 again, watching him charm the pants off a judge during my husband's first business lawsuit. Jessica's phone buzzed again. She glanced at the screen, Daniel calling, and excused herself with a tense, "I'll just be a minute," before vanishing down the hall. Marty waited until her footsteps faded before pulling me into a quick, fierce hug. "Damn it, Ruthie! Why'd you wait so long to call?" The familiar nickname nearly undid me. I swallowed hard. Pride, I guess. Didn't want to admit my own son could. "Stop." He held me at arm's length. "This isn't about Daniel. This is about that gold-digging spider he married." He jerked, his chin toward the hallway where Jessica had disappeared. "You got the copies?" I nodded, leading him to the kitchen where I'd laid out the damning paperwork next to the fruit bowl. Marty scanned the documents with the speed of a man who'd spent 40 years sniffing out loopholes. His grin was downright predatory when he tapped one particular page. "Oh, this is rich. She didn't even have her own lawyer review these." He pulled out a pen and circled a clause. "See this? They can't force you into any facility without independent medical evaluation. And this?" Another circle. "Your original." Trust specifies that any attempts to alter it require sign-off from both your son and your sister. I blinked. "Margaret? But she's in Arizona, yes. And according to my paralegal's 5-minute background check, Jessica hasn't spoken 2 words to her since your 70th birthday party." From down the hall, Jessica's hushed, frantic voice carried, "Daniel, you need to come home. Now." Marty and I exchanged a look. The cavalry was coming. The next hour passed in a blur of legal jargon, and Jessica's increasingly strained smiles. Marty spread documents across my dining room table like a general mapping out a battle plan, his Sharpie circling clauses and scribbling notes in margins. Every so often, Jessica would drift back into the room, pretending to straighten decor while straining to hear. "Here's the play," Marty said, voice low. He tapped a page from my original trust. "This gives you full control of all assets, unless 2 independent physicians declare you incompetent, which, frankly, would require you to forget your own name while setting things on fire." His grin faded. "But Jessica's counting on you not knowing that." I traced the embossed notary seal with my fingertip. "So what do we do?" "We remind them." Marty pulled out his phone. "First, I called Judge Henderson, golf buddy of mine, to fast-track a competency evaluation with doctors we choose. Second," the front door slammed open. Daniel stood in the doorway, tie loosened, hair mussed from running his hands through it. His gaze darted from Marty to me, to the papers strewn across the table. "Mom? What's going on?" Jessica materialized at his side. "Your mother invited her lawyer over to ambush us. That's what." Daniel's face crumpled. "Is this about golden years? Mom, we just want you safe." Something inside me cracked open. My sweet boy, the one who used to cry when his goldfish died, now looking at me like I was the unreasonable one. Marty cleared his throat. "Daniel, your mother is perfectly capable of deciding where she lives. And legally, this isn't about legal." Daniel's voice broke. "It's about you refusing to admit you're not 30 anymore." The words hung in the air like smoke. I studied my son, the faint crow's feet he'd inherited from me, the way his shoulders slumped under his dress shirt, and suddenly I saw it. Not malice, but fear. My little boy, terrified of losing me. Jessica seized the moment. "Darling, we're just trying to help." She reached for his hand. Marty nudged a document toward me. "Ruth?" I took a deep breath. Time to choose. The grandfather clock in the hallway ticked loudly as I studied my son's face. The same face I'd kissed goodnight for 18 years, now twisted with frustration. I pushed the legal papers aside and reached for Daniel's hand. His fingers were warm, just like when he was a child clutching mine before crossing the street. "Do you really believe I can't take care of myself?" I asked quietly. Daniel hesitated. "It's not that simple, Mom. Last month you forgot to take my vitamin, D-pill. Yes, I'm a menace to society." I squeezed his hand. "But forgetting a pill doesn't mean I belong in a home." Jessica stepped forward, her perfume suddenly overwhelming. "Ruth, be reasonable. The stairs alone are why I had that chairlift installed last year," I countered. "The one you called an eyesore." Marty cleared his throat and slid a single sheet of paper across the table. "Competency evaluation scheduled for tomorrow at 10 a.m. with Dr. Chen and Dr. Westbrook, both geriatric specialists." He leveled a look at Daniel. "Unless you're afraid of what they'll say?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "Of course not. If Mom passes..." "When?" I corrected. "Then we'll drop the nursing home discussion." He glanced at Jessica, who looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. Marty gathered his papers. "Good. Now, Ruth, let's discuss that other matter in private." Jessica's head snapped up. "What other matter?" "The one that doesn't concern you," Marty said pleasantly. He guided me toward the sunroom, leaving my son and his wife staring after us. Once the French. Doors closed behind us, Marty pulled out his phone. "My investigator found something interesting. Jessica's been funneling money from your joint accounts to a private LLC." He showed me a spreadsheet. "See these transfers? Always right after Daniel's paycheck clears." The numbers blurred before my eyes. "How much?" "Enough for a down payment on a beach house." Marty's voice was grim. "Guess who's listed as the sole owner?" Outside, a car door slammed. Through the window, I saw Jessica pacing the driveway, phone pressed to her ear. Her free hand gesticulated wildly. Marty followed my gaze. "I'd bet my bar license she's calling her real estate agent right now." The next morning, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, pinning up my hair with hands that refused to tremble. I chose my favorite pearl earrings, the ones my husband gave me on our 25th anniversary, and a crisp linen dress. If I was going to be judged, I damn well looked like someone who belonged on the bench, not in front of it. Marty picked me up at 9:15 sharp. As he helped me into his Cadillac, a newer model of the one Jessica had made Daniel sell, he handed me a steaming travel mug. "Peppermint tea," he said. "Just like college." The memory washed over me. Late nights in the law library, Marty smuggling in thermoses of tea, while my husband, then just my boyfriend, napped between pre-med study sessions. I took a sip, the familiar warmth steadying me. "Ready for battle?" Marty asked as we pulled into the medical plaza. I squared my shoulders. "Let them try to bury me." The evaluation took 4 hours. Dr. Chen had me recite the current president, count backward by sevens, and explain the plot of my favorite novel. Dr. Westbrook tested my reflexes, made me walk heel to toe, and asked detailed questions about my medication schedule. The kicker came when Westbrook slid a document toward me. Jessica's nursing home application. Mrs. Calloway, can you explain why your daughter-in-law claims you've left the stove on 3 times this month? I laughed. Because my Viking range has a safety lock that shuts off automatically after 12 minutes. Jessica knows this. She's the one who insisted we install it after she burned a pot of rice last year. Both doctors exchanged glances. Marty's pen scratched across his legal pad. We were in the parking lot when my phone rang. Daniel's name flashed on the screen. Mom? His voice sounded hollow. Jessica's gone. She took the Mercedes and some other things. She left a note. Marty's eyebrows shot up. I gripped the phone tighter. What did it say, Danny? A long pause. Then so quiet, I almost missed it. I can't wait around for your mother to die. The silence in the car after Daniel's words was so thick, I could hear Marty's gold watch ticking. My fingers tightened around the phone as my son's ragged breathing filled the line. Danny, I said slowly. Did you know? About the money. The LLC. His voice cracked. Not until this morning. I found statements in her office. Mom, there's over $200,000 missing. Marty's sharp inhale told me everything. That wasn't just Jessica skimming grocery money. That was calculated theft. Come to the house, I said. Bring whatever you found. When we arrived, Daniel was already waiting on the porch, a cardboard box at his feet. The sight of my 6-foot-tall son curled in on himself like a scolded child sent a pang through my chest. Inside, we spread the evidence across the kitchen table. Bank transfers, LLC paperwork, even emails between Jessica and a realtor about a dream cottage in Cape Cod. The dates went back 2 years. She told me those transfers were for investments. Daniel whispered, staring at a $45,000 withdrawal. Said she had a friend in hedge funds. Marty was already dialing. Judge Henderson, we need an emergency freeze on all joint accounts. Daniel suddenly grabbed my hand. Mom, I'm so... Stop! I cupped his face, forcing him to meet my eyes. This isn't your fault. That woman could have fooled Warren Buffett. A ghost of a smile flickered across his face. Then his phone buzzed. A notification from their shared banking app. Jessica had just emptied their savings account. Marty swore. We need to move faster. Ruth, where's your copy of the marital agreement? I blinked. The what? The document your husband made Daniel sign before the wedding. Marty was already striding toward my filing cabinet. The one specifying that any inheritance remains separate property in case of divorce. Daniel's head snapped up. Wait, that exists? Marty unearthed a thick envelope with a flourish. Merry Christmas, kid! Your dad made sure Jessica could never touch a dime of Ruth's money. The doorbell rang. Through the frosted glass, I could make out a uniformed figure. Process server. Jessica had made her move. Time to make ours. The courtroom smelled like lemon polish and stale coffee. The same as it had 40 years ago, when my husband and I sat in these very benches for his brother's probate case. Now, I sat at the plaintiff's table with Marty on my right, and Daniel, my sweet shell-shocked Daniel, on my left. Jessica swept in 10 minutes late, her new designer handbag, purchased with my money, according to the paper trail, dangling from her elbow. She'd dressed for the part. Conservative navy suit, hair in a low bun. But the effect was ruined by the way her eyes darted around like a cornered animal. Judge Henderson, a no-nonsense woman with silver hair and reading glasses perched on her nose, peered over the bench. Mrs. Calloway, Jr., your petition claims Mrs. Ruth Calloway, Sr. is mentally unfit to manage her affairs. Yet the court has received 2 independent evaluations stating otherwise. She tapped a folder. Dr. Chen's report specifically notes Mrs. Calloway Sr. recalled not only her medication dosage, but the interactions between them. Something my own law clerk can't do. A ripple of laughter went through the room. Jessica's lawyer, a slick 30-something, who kept checking his watch, stood hastily. Your Honor, my client remains concerned about... What your client remains, Marty interrupted, rising smoothly, is in violation of California Penal Code 487, grand theft. He dropped a stack of bank records on the clerk's desk with a thud. We filed a criminal complaint with the DA's office this morning. Jessica's gasp was audible. Her lawyer's head whipped around. We were not informed, because we wanted to see if she'd perjure herself first. Marty said pleasantly. She did. Page 14 of her affidavit claims she never handled finances, yet these transfers, he held up a sheet, were authorized by her online banking login at 2:17 a.m. on June 3rd. Daniel made a wounded noise beside me. I reached for his hand under the table. Judge Henderson adjusted her glasses. Mrs. Calloway, Jr., anything to say? Jessica stood, her voice trembling. Your Honor, I only ever wanted what was best for... Spare us. The judge sighed. She turned to me. Mrs. Calloway, Sr., what would you like to do? Every eye turned to me. The air hummed with anticipation. I stood slowly, my knees protesting, but my voice was rock steady. First, I want my money back. Every cent. I turned to Jessica. Second, you will sign divorce papers today, with no settlement, or I press charges. Jessica's face went sheet white. And third, the judge prompted. I smiled. Third, I'm taking my son to lunch. The diner booth creaked as I slid in across from Daniel. The same red vinyl booth where I'd brought him for chocolate milkshakes after Little League games. He stared at his hands. Now a doctor's hands, capable of stitching arteries, yet somehow looking so young. As the waitress set down 2 coffees. She never loved me, did she? His voice cracked like he was 15 again, heartbroken over his first girlfriend. I stirred cream into my cup, buying time. The truth was ugly, but my boy deserved better than lies. I think she loved the idea of you. A handsome doctor with a trust fund. But real love? I reached across the table. Real love doesn't steal, doesn't isolate, doesn't try to bury people alive. His fingers tightened around mine. I let her do this to you. Look at me. I waited until his tear-bright eyes met mine. You were her mark, same as me. The difference is I've been around long enough to spot a con artist. A faint smile tugged at his lips. Granddad's prenup saved us, didn't it? That, I said, tapping his nose like when he was 5. And the fact your mother still has all her marbles. We ordered pancakes, chocolate chip for him, blueberry for me. And by the time the syrup was gone, we'd made plans. Daniel would move back into the guest house while his divorce finalized. I'd teach him to manage the estate himself. And next month, we'd take that Alaskan cruise Jessica had always vetoed. As we walked to the car, Daniel hesitated. Mom, what if I can't trust my judgment again? The afternoon sun warmed my shoulders as I hugged him. Really hugged him. For the first time in years. Then you borrow mine until yours comes back. That's what mothers are for. Wind down. The leaves on the maple outside my bedroom window rustle as I write this, their shadows dancing across the quilt my grandmother stitched. Some nights when the house is quiet, I still hear echoes. Jessica's shrill laughter in the hallway, the slam of her car door that last day. But mostly, I hear Daniel puttering in the kitchen below, humming off-key like he did as a boy. To every woman listening who's been made to feel small, who's had her strength mistaken for weakness, her wisdom for senility. Remember this, you are the keeper of your story. Not greedy daughters-in-law, not impatient children, not society whispering you're obsolete. Your life is not a burden. It's a legacy. Thank you for listening to Ruth's journey. This story was told to affirm the resilience of women who faced family betrayal, while with a sense of hard-won peace.